Then there's stuff from different parts of the world. You got your mookaite from Australia. That's another piece of coral. Jasper. If I remember correctly, jasper is basically like a magnetized or petrified mud. Right there too. They use jasper a lot. All the stone that you use for flint knapping is something they call it conchoidal fracturing. See how everything kind of has like a roundness to it? There's ribbons or waves. See how there's roundness to all that? Everything kind of rounds off. And it's just conchoidal fracture. And if you use the right pressure, you can get it to travel along the pieces. So like see how all those little kind of rounded off flakes, lines? That's your conchoidal fractures, and that's what makes arrowheads possible. So these were hit right here along some edge, and it causes a bulb, and it draws a flake off of the piece. Mm-hmm. So you get to that point, and then normally you got to work back this way and kind of even this out, get rid of that hump, and then once you kind of round it all up. Smooth it all out to where, so basically a spall is a big flake, you know, even that could be considered a spall or a flake. And what you do is you get to the point where you get flakes, and that's what I'm going to have you guys doing, because I don't have enough tools, or I don't feel comfortable having you guys do what's called percussion. Percussion is using your boppers or your billets or your hammer stones. Right there, to hit it, because there's so many people close. That's a whole technique within itself that takes a long time to learn. You could break up a lot of rock and ruin a lot of rock. So what I did is I gathered up all of my flakes, and what I'm going to have you guys do is learn how to do flaking. You can find it, you could buy this by the pound. For obsidian, you could buy obsidian flakes like this for $3 a pound. So that's a good way for people to start, and you get your little arrowheads out of them. Learning the angles and the different, how hard to strike for rocks to make spalls. Like I'm still learning that, and I've been doing this for 2 years. Okay, so it's kind of like more advanced. So we're gonna do flake knapping, and if you guys get into it, it's as easy as getting some whitetail tips that are kind of straight and getting a hand pad. And that's all you're gonna need is another hand pad and whitetail tips. There's two types of flint knapping. There's modern and there's abo. Okay, these right here are all of my modern flint knapping tools. I have my abrader stones, and I'll explain abrader stones in a minute. I have my hand pads. I have my notch grooves. I have my copper boppers in different sizes for different. You know, this is for more larger work. As you work your way down, that's finer work. Same thing with the sticks. You have your larger size, smaller size, and then it goes even smaller and then even smaller. So these ones are more of an Ishi stick style. And Ishi was a native that came out of California in 1911. He was the last of his tribe. He was just alone out there, and he was lonely. And he came into civilization, and they found him, and he didn't know no English, no nothing. A lot of what we know about flint knapping today came from him, because they knew that he used tools like stones and bone to break rocks, but they didn't really know any of the techniques or really exactly how to do it. In fact, at one point they thought that how they made obsidian points is by heating the rock up in the fire and then dropping water on it to draw flakes off. Well, if you ever did that, it would just explode in your face. Yeah, so he taught us a lot, and this is the style that he used to pressure flaker. These are pressure flakers, and his style was able to allow him to have more force down and then be able to bring his leg towards. So he's able to make more force, okay, with this technique. So that's an Ishi stick. And he told them that most natives from North America used a longer style like this. In Europe, they used shorter ones because they were just hand pressure. They would just use their forearm strength. So this is modern flint knapping. Modern flint knapping uses copper. Around 800 years ago, around the Great Lakes, there were natives that were using, around the Cahokia Mountains, they were using copper. for flint knapping. I don't know how long ago in Europe they would have been using copper for flint knapping, but modern day flint knappers use copper because it has the perfect grip. It's hard, but it's still soft enough to where if you use steel, you're going to crush your rock, or you're going to slip. Bone works really good, but you're going to be constantly sharpening your tools. You're going to be wearing your bone away a lot. So modern flint knappers use copper. They've been using copper, so it's not exactly a modern thing, but they call it modern. Abo is bone tools and stone tools. So like you have the hammer stones, and then you have your bone pressure flakers. So your bone pressure flakers are just, it's the same thing basically. And then you have your billets. And your billets are very hard, they're very heavy. You can use elk or mule deer, but they're porous. There's holes on the inside of the bone, all the way through it down the middle.
Yep.
Like this. You can use it, but it's very soft, it crumbles. You're gonna be constantly fighting that center part. Once you wear this down enough to where it starts getting into that, you're gonna be having a lot of trouble with elk or mule deer. Moose and whitetail, even though that kind of looks like there's holes there, it's not, it's solid. Whitetail have solid bones in their antlers. Moose, it's solid. There's no holes or pores. It's very dense, very heavy, so that's what flint knappers use. This is the preferred tools, is whitetail and moose. You just find yourself a nice straight tine, and then there's your pressure flaker. Okay, that's the base of the horn. The rounded part is what's attached to the skull, and the sharpened point, that's where the paddle started splitting off of it. You could buy the moose billets just like that. That one would be like a $60 or to $80 moose billet, but I went to Promised Land Tannery up here on the res, and I got that for like 25 bucks. So it's just easier to do it yourself. So abrading stones. Abrading stones, you think, well, you want to make a sharp edge, you're making a point, an arrowhead. Why would you grind it away? And I didn't realize the importance of it at first. Grinding away the edge allows you to build a platform, and see how it causes like that powdery stuff right there? That allows your tool to have an area to grip onto. Because if you don't have that abrasiveness area right there, your tool could just slip. Also, when you have sharp edges, they're more likely just to crumble. So when you have it abraded, you're able to put more force into it and down to draw your flake off. Without abrading, you're going to get a lot of short flakes that are just kind of like knocking the edge off, so you're just going to keep knocking back. You're not going to thin your piece out. So that's the whole point of abrading. You want to see where your basic center line is on your piece, so you can see that on this side, it's on this side. Over here, it's on this side. So I'm going to want to work the flakes off of this side over here, and work the flakes off of this side over here. If you don't draw your flakes off below center line, you're going to either break your entire flake in half, or you're going to not be able to draw a flake. It's just not going to work right. So always remember below center line. And since we're not going to use modern hand pads, I gave you guys these. So there's a natural groove kind of right here in your hand. That's where you want to draw your flakes off at. And I'm just going to kind of show you guys what that side looks like. So I can show you the flake. See that flake right there? Yeah. So you just keep doing that. So then you go right next to it.
And you're actually working like the bottom right now. You're working the bottom. You're not working the top.
Yeah, the bottom. So I'm gonna push towards over here, and then once I get enough force, see that flake? So you just keep doing that all around your piece. And that's basically flint knapping. Let me use one of the horns so that you guys can see. And then of course the horns have some curve to it and whatnot, so you're gonna have to keep all that in consideration. You're gonna have to hold it to where the point is going straight. So don't be holding it like this or anything like that. You want to hold it to where your point is going in straight and then popping down. And the bone is a little bit harder to master, but it's the original way they did it. As you guys are working, I'm going to look at what you're doing and seeing if there's anywhere where, so see how there's this kind of thick area right here, and that's your platform right there. I'm going to try to hit it right there and knock some of this bulb off. And I could have did it too hard, but in the wrong spot, but that happens. I took the bulb off. I watch a lot of videos on YouTube, and this point right here came from a guy named Jim Wynn, or James Wynn, and on YouTube he goes by Paleo Man Jim. There's a lot of them, but Paleo Man Jim, he's been featured on Discovery Channel, all these different shows. He was one of the guys that started doing this stuff back in, I don't know, a long time ago, probably the 60s or something, and he's basically an expert in the field of flint knapping, and a lot of people learn from him and look up to him. He really has good videos. And then there's Paleo Man 52. It's another one. There's those are the two that stand out. Some of them don't really have a go by a name, or it'd be hard. Backyard Boyer, maybe. He's one of them that you could learn from. In Washington, the only stone that you're going to be able to find that's knappable is obsidian, jasper, agates, various agates, and petrified wood. And whatever this stuff is. This was found down in this was found down in Vantage. And it's some sort of opalized minerals. I don't know, I couldn't tell you what it is. It works. See how this is real shiny and then this is kind of grainy? The shinier stuff, I know, flakes off and kind of crumbles. And you can make points out of it, like these right here were all made with it. But you got to get this harder stuff, so you could use it. I don't know what it is, but it's usable. But a lot of this stuff came from Utah, Texas. Who knows where a lot of this flint that Jim sent me came from. Some of it could be from Europe. This right here is triangle chert, and this all came from Utah. The Navaculite comes from, oh man, like South Carolina or something. Some flint knappers are gonna see this and be like, don't. It's somewhere from over there. And then the Navaculite comes from over there too, somewhere on the East Coast, somewhere over there. If you're not able to get a good edge, since I flaked that one piece off, and this piece is kind of like, doesn't have the right edges, you do what's called scissoring. So see how I flipped it over? Now I'm going to come back on this edge and go this way. Flip it back over, come that way.
Is that how you kind of like thin down the edge too, by doing that?
Yeah, scissoring it. The one thing about flint knapping that if someone doesn't tell you, you learn pretty fast is you're going to fail. You're going to fail over and over again until you start to learn how to do it. You're going to get to the point where you're like, oh man, this point is looking good, this is going to be a nice arrowhead, and then the next thing you do, you're going to break it right down the middle. You're going to bust the tip off. You're going to get to the point where you're like this, then you're gonna go, oh yeah, it's gonna look good if I just put some notches in right there. You're gonna start putting those notches in, and you might get one side and be like, all right, this is going good, and then snap, break that whole chunk off over here. So lots of failure. I have a whole box at home. Some of them are in here. Of failures that I couldn't get thin enough. You're gonna fail over and over again. So that was a piece that I was hitting percussion, and it just broke right in half. And so yeah, it could be a hard hobby to get into if you're not patient, or you don't want to spend the time to learn it or do it. Yeah, this was big business. If you knew how to flint knap back in the day, you didn't have to do nothing. Everyone would just bring you their stuff, bring you what you needed, because they all wanted stones to hunt. And yeah. So if you were a good flint knapper back in the day, you literally had to do nothing but sit there and break stone all day. Lithic reduction. It's basically shaping stone. You can wear gloves, but I was told that you can't feel the stone as good and you mess up more. So I just take the cuts. And you do get cut quite a bit. I cut myself just when I got here. I don't know where it's at now, but Dan saw it. It's a little cut. Obsidian is so sharp though that your wounds heal. Obsidian is the sharpest thing known to man. They still use obsidian blades in surgery. They use it for brain surgery, eye surgery, liver surgery, heart surgery. There's a special type of flint knapping that I haven't been able to learn yet. And Paleo Man Jim has lots of videos on it. There's a type of flint knapping where they make prismatic blades, and they're just long, skinny blades where they're just a straight, razor sharp edge on both sides. And they have guys today that make prismatic blades for surgery. You could take a microscopic image of a scalpel, and it's going to be all rough and porous, and all kinds of lines and grooves, and just really rough looking when you get down to that level. But when they do the same thing with one of the obsidian blades, it looks like how you look at a razor blade right now. It's very just smooth and straight.
Very sharp.
So when it makes a cut, and then those two pieces of flesh join back together where it cut, they start healing instantly. And that's why they use it in surgery. Yeah, using bone tools is a lot harder than copper. Like you can see, I could take this right now. I'm gonna get the flake off. I made some, but they just weren't that good. You got to use the right copper and stuff. They have cold rolled copper, and then they have copper that they heat. A lot of the copper that you'd be able to go get like at Home Depot or something, it's all heated copper. So it's soft. It'll bend. It will just. You'll go to draw a flake, and it'll just shave right off. The copper will shave right off. So once you start getting kind of an edge with the bone tools, if you're not able to draw the flakes in and down, you kind of angle it, and you just kind of like push in and down it, like that. So you go from a nodule to a spall to a flake. Sometimes you just use the spall to make your biface, but either a spall or a flake, it's kind of a difference in size. A spall is big and a flake is small. And then you make these what are called bifaces. That's ultimately what you're trying to make to start with, is your bifaces. And it's basically very flat, somewhat even on all sides. Okay, like this right here is a biface. A lot of these are bifaces. The next step is your notches. And you can just keep it a biface too. They would have fluted it or hafted it just like that. The notches, of course, is for hafting, using your sinew to actually haft it to a piece of wood or something. But those are your steps. You got to reduce your nodule down to a spall or flake, and then come in from all angles on both sides and just work back on both sides. When I get down to here, I'm gonna have to start bringing this way in. Like if my point's going to be right here, a lot of this is going to have to be taken away at some point. And then I'll just keep thinning it back towards itself As you can see right here, there's still kind of a hump, a ridge. That's all stuff you gotta look at, constantly study, and see where you're gonna be able to make your moves at. It's really time consuming, and you really gotta take your time. There's some stuff going on back here. It's like, see this right here? See how it's rounded? There's no real sharp edge. Like I could run my finger along here and not get cut. That's kind of rare with obsidian, but this is where I hit it at the wrong angle, and instead of drawing a flake off the piece like this, the flake went up into the rock and then created a ridge that rounded off. And that's how that was formed. And these are super hard to flake. So I'm gonna have to come in from this side and just scissor that all the way through there, and then start working my way back this way. The thing about these type of hands without their ridge is if you kind of hold it to where it's off the pad and just support it with your fingers down into your, then you have a little bit of room to draw the flake. Yeah. The pad is really just protecting your hand from getting this obsidian to go into your hand. Because if I was doing this flaking without it, I would be shoving obsidian into my hand constantly. Okay. With the old pressure flakers, where they might have, instead of a copper tip like this where it was bone, they would just use the white tail bone. They would take this piece, round off, make it more, uniform, and then to where they're able to put it down in a hole. Or they would haft it with rawhide. They'd have like a piece that was cut out like this, and then back like that, and that piece would just be wrapped on with rawhide.